Your future wealth is already decided. Not by the market, not by your coding skills, but entirely by the people you tolerate today. Most people think networking is about collecting business cards. That is a scam. True wealth is built by ruthlessly filtering your reality. If the wrong person enters your life, you can lose 10 years instantly. Today, we reveal the brutal laws of the inner circle. This is how you stop bleeding time and start multiplying your life. The first law of the inner circle is the one-day rule. If you are evaluating a potential business partner, a co-founder, or even a major client, there is a brutal filter you must apply immediately. If you cannot see yourself working with this specific human being for the rest of your life, do not work with them for a single day. This is where most people get trapped. They convince themselves that they can tolerate a toxic client just for the short-term cash. They deeply believe they can manage a mediocre or lazy co-founder just to get the initial project off the ground. They think it is just a temporary, necessary compromise. But human dynamics do not work like a spreadsheet. When you allow an exhausting or fundamentally misaligned person into your daily life, they do not just take a few hours of your schedule. They completely drain your cognitive bandwidth. You end up spending your evenings heavily stressing over their careless mistakes. You spend your morning shower having imaginary, exhausting arguments with them. You are burning your absolute best creative energy trying to manage their daily dysfunction instead of actually writing your code or building your leverage. You are optimizing the wrong variable. You are sacrificing your permanent peace of mind for a tiny, short-term illusion of progress. The most successful builders in the world are absolutely ruthless about who they let into their mental space. They know that trying to fix a broken professional relationship is a devastating waste of biological energy. One wrong person in your inner circle instantly equals years of lost progress. If you feel a knot in your stomach during the very first meeting, that is your intuition actively warning you about a massive future disaster. You must develop the cold, calculated discipline to walk away immediately. It is infinitely better to build your empire entirely alone than to tie yourself to a sinking anchor. Think about that. Let's break this down. When you are building a team or searching for a partner, society tells you to look for two primary traits: massive intelligence and limitless energy. You want the absolute smartest coder, the most aggressive marketer, and the sharpest negotiator in the room. But this is the part nobody talks about. If you find someone who is highly intelligent and deeply energetic, but they lack fundamental integrity, you have not found a powerful partner. You have successfully recruited a financial assassin into your own inner circle. Think about the basic physics of human nature. Intelligence and energy are simply raw amplifiers. They are a massive, powerful engine inside a vehicle. But integrity is the steering wheel. If the steering wheel is completely broken, a much faster engine will only guarantee that you crash into the concrete wall at a significantly higher speed. When you decide to partner with a brilliant manipulator or hire a highly skilled sociopath, you are not playing the game wrong. You are playing the wrong game entirely. An intelligent but fundamentally dishonest person does not fail loudly. They do not make obvious, stupid mistakes that you can easily catch and fire them for. Instead, they drain your resources slowly and systematically. They quietly restructure the legal contracts to favor themselves behind your back. They subtly take full credit for your complex back-end architecture in front of the key investors. They manipulate your team and perfectly rationalize their toxic behavior so that you begin to question your own sanity. Their massive intellect becomes a highly sophisticated weapon pointed directly at your own livelihood. You will suddenly find yourself spending the majority of your precious time constantly looking over your shoulder, consulting with expensive lawyers, and actively protecting yourself from your own team, instead of actually building your leverage. This is your reality. You can never outsmart a dishonest person who already lives inside your own walls. You must prioritize radical, unshakable integrity above every single other human metric. If they do not possess absolute character, their intelligence is nothing more than a lethal liability. And this changes everything. The third law of the inner circle revolves around the ultimate financial decision of your entire life. Society has deeply conditioned you to treat marriage and long-term relationships as purely romantic endeavors, completely divorced from the cold, mechanical reality of building wealth. But Naval Ravikant makes a brutally honest observation. The single most important financial decision you will ever make is who you choose as your life partner. Let's break this down. When you are dedicating your 20s and 30s to building scalable digital assets, writing complex code, or engineering a massive system from the ground up, you are going to face extreme psychological pressure. The market outside your front door is a ruthless battlefield. When you finally log off and step away from your monitors, you desperately need your home to be an absolute sanctuary. If your partner is constantly creating unnecessary emotional drama, obsessing over status games, or deeply resenting your ambition, they are not just being difficult. One wrong partner can financially destroy you significantly faster than any catastrophic stock market crash. This is the hidden cost. You sit down at your desk to build your leverage, but your cognitive bandwidth is completely drained. Your mind is violently consumed by domestic warfare instead of back-end architecture. You cannot focus on acquiring equity when you are constantly negotiating for basic peace in your own living room. If you tie yourself to someone who fundamentally resents the sacrifices required to build an empire, you are not playing the game wrong. You are playing the wrong game. You are voluntarily attaching a massive anchor to your own ship. Conversely, the right partner is the ultimate, unfair cheat code for wealth creation. They act as a massive, compounding multiplier for your daily output. They provide unshakable emotional stability, which allows you to take massive asymmetric risks because you know your foundation is completely secure. They do not just share your daily life, they actively fuel the engine of your financial freedom. Think about that. The fourth law of the inner circle is to aggressively identify and eliminate the status players from your life. In the modern world, there are fundamentally two very different games being played right next to each other. Wealth creation is a beautiful, positive-sum game. You can build your back-end architecture, I can write my code, and we can both scale our digital assets to massive success without ever hurting each other. But status is a deeply brutal, zero-sum game. In order for someone to move up in the status hierarchy, they have to deliberately push somebody else down. This is the part nobody talks about. A status player is rarely an obvious enemy. Usually, it is a close acquaintance who subtly mocks your intense ambition under the clever disguise of a joke. It is the colleague who quietly intercepts the credit for your complex project during a management call. They are fundamentally obsessed with their perceived ranking in the social hierarchy. Because they are not actually building anything valuable themselves, their only path to victory is to actively sabotage your momentum. If you surround yourself with people who constantly compete with you over meaningless titles or social recognition, you're optimizing the wrong variable. You end up burning massive amounts of your precious cognitive bandwidth simply trying to defend your reputation. You cannot construct a massive, compounding wealth machine when the people sitting at your own table are secretly praying for your failure just to feel slightly better about their own laziness. This is your reality. If someone constantly points out the flaws in your ideas without ever offering a structural solution, they are not trying to help you. They are actively playing a status game to make themselves feel superior. You must ruthlessly cut them out of your daily schedule. You need to surround yourself entirely with positive-sum builders who actually celebrate your victories. And this changes everything. The fifth law of the inner circle is understanding the massive financial leverage of absolute trust. In the traditional corporate world, society teaches you to rely entirely on heavy legal contracts, endless compliance meetings, and multiple layers of middle management just to ensure that people actually do their jobs. This is the hidden cost. When you are forced to work with people you do not fundamentally trust, you are spending 80% of your daily biological energy playing pure defense. You are paying for 50-page legal documents just to protect your own equity. You are constantly micromanaging their daily output to make sure they are not cutting corners. You are not playing the game wrong. You are playing the wrong game. You are wasting your elite problem-solving mind on basic human babysitting instead of actually building your back-end architecture. Let's break this down. Trust is not just a nice moral virtue. Trust is the ultimate economic accelerator. When you build a tight inner circle of highly competent, deeply honorable people, your execution speed becomes absolutely terrifying to your competitors. You do not need a team of expensive lawyers to review a new structural pivot. You do not need a 3-week corporate approval process to deploy a massive update. You make a critical, high-stakes decision with a single, 5-minute text message. This extreme velocity is exactly how small, elite teams of independent builders consistently destroy massive legacy corporations. Trust completely removes the friction from the economic machine. If you have to constantly check the security cameras to see if your own partner is stealing from the system, the business is already dead. You must relentlessly construct a circle where a simple handshake is infinitely stronger than a heavily notarized corporate contract. When you finally achieve this level of operational trust, your wealth compounds at a speed you currently cannot even comprehend. Think about that. The sixth law of the inner circle addresses the absolute myth of the completely isolated creator. In the modern digital economy, it has never been easier to sit alone in a dark room, write complex code, and build a highly profitable automated system without ever speaking to another human being. Many ambitious developers deeply believe that complete physical isolation is the ultimate path to extreme financial focus. But this is the part nobody talks about. You can successfully remove all the toxic colleagues and status players from your physical daily life, but if you replace them by constantly consuming pessimistic algorithms, angry political debates, and deeply cynical social media feeds, you are still actively poisoning your own brain. You're optimizing the wrong variable. You are heavily guarding the physical door to your office, while leaving the front door of your subconscious mind completely wide open to the absolute worst elements of society. Let's break this down. Even if you are a solo builder engineering a massive database entirely by yourself, your mind does not operate in a vacuum. Your inner circle is not just the physical people you grab coffee with. Your inner circle also consists of the podcasts you actively listen to, the authors you read, and the silent mentors you quietly study. If your informational circle is heavily polluted by victims constantly complaining about how the economic system is rigged, your own output will eventually reflect that exact same defeatist energy. This is your reality. If your physical circle is completely empty right now, that is significantly better than a circle filled with losers. But your intellectual circle must be heavily populated by absolute titans. You must ruthlessly curate the digital voices you allow into your head. Read the highest quality books. Listen only to the absolute smartest builders. Surround your mind entirely with individuals who are actively playing long-term, positive-sum games. And this changes everything. The seventh and final law of the inner circle is the protocol of extraction. You have just absorbed the mathematical reality of how the individuals around you are actively predicting your exact financial future. But this is where most people get trapped. They will listen to this entire concept, completely agree with the underlying logic, and then go right back to their heavily compromised lives. They will continue to answer the phone calls of deeply cynical friends, and they will continue to waste their precious weekends arguing with status-driven colleagues. If you fully understand the mechanics of building wealth, but you actively refuse to apply those exact same strict filters to your personal relationships, you're optimizing the wrong variable. You are desperately trying to build an elite, highly scalable system while voluntarily operating inside a fundamentally broken social circle. Let's break this down. Naval Ravikant explicitly states that all returns in life, whether in wealth, relationships, or knowledge, come from compound interest in long-term games with long-term people. Wealth is not just about the complex back-end architecture you aggressively build, it is equally about the toxic environments you actively refuse to tolerate. Your biological energy is highly finite. You simply cannot afford to play short-term games with fundamentally short-term people. Your immediate assignment today is to conduct a ruthless audit of your daily schedule. Identify exactly one person in your current life who constantly drains your energy, subtly mocks your intense ambition, or clearly lacks fundamental integrity. And this week, you execute the extraction protocol. You do not need to have a dramatic, emotional confrontation. You simply stop replying. You quietly and permanently revoke their access to your absolute most precious asset, which is your time. If this reality check just upgraded your mental operating system, hit the like button right now to help the algorithm rescue other builders who are currently trapped in the wrong circle. Subscribe to the channel to systematically build your specific knowledge. And before you log off, drop a comment below and tell me, what is the absolute most expensive lesson you learned from trusting the wrong person? I read every single comment. This is your reality. Stop compromising, and start filtering your world today.